What's up, it's your boy NT Mix back again with another video, and today we're going to be doing the NRL match predictions for round 4. Now, before we get into the match predictions for this round, just a quick review of last round. I got 6 outcomes out of 8 right, and I didn't get any of the scores correct. The games I got wrong were the Broncos versus St George, in which St George won. I predicted Brisbane to win, and the Tigers versus the Bulldogs, where the Bulldogs won, and I predicted the Tigers to win. Probably what most people would have got wrong if they was doing these predictions as well. Anyway, now we're going to be getting into this week's matches, and we're going to be starting off with the Roosters versus the Broncos. This game ought to be very interesting. I think it'll be kind of similar but different to the Parramatta Roosters game. I think it'd be very high octane, very intense. But I feel like Roosters are at home, which will give them a bit of an advantage. Cronk is back, which will help them. And I feel like they'll just have a more settled and solid structural play than Brisbane, who I still feel their attack is, strong, but it's just getting there. It's not ironed out 100% yet. And I don't think they really have a commanding enough half yet at the moment. There's nobody really taking their team by the scruff of the neck. And I just feel that because of that, the Roosters will be able to outdo them. So I'm going to go for a scoreline of, I think, the Roosters going to go Roosters 32, Broncos 18. The same score the Roosters beat Parramatta by. I think that seems a pretty plausible score. So just write it down real quick so I can mark him this time next week. Alright, next game we got the Warriors versus the Gold Coast. Gold Coast, I think they did better than people expected last week, taking Souths, to a 28-20 game when really I thought South Sydney were just going to walk all over them. So you can't really underestimate the Titans in this game. They could show up and they could cause problems, but the Warriors at home can be a force, and could cause more problems than people think. So I think that the Warriors will get it, given they're at home, and I think they do have strike when they play well. So I expect them to do so. I'm going to go for the Warriors. Warriors 28 to the Titans 16. 28-16 win for the Warriors, just based on the home advantage. But I do feel the Titans will bring something to the game. We've got the Penrith Panthers versus the West Tigers. Both teams coming off major losses. Panthers losing 32-6, I believe it was, to the Melbourne Storm, and the Tigers losing 22-14 to the Bulldogs, if my memory serves me right. With this game, I think that the Tigers are going in better form than the Panthers because they won their first 2 games leading up to that Bulldogs loss. But I just think Tigers, it's on the balance of play. Panthers seem to have, I don't know, it's actually a really hard game to call this one. Panthers are home, and I think that this is one of those games where they will have to come out and just iron out that win, kind of similar to like they did against, Newcastle, where they just managed to get that. So I'm going to go, this is a hard game to call. Or did the Knights beat Panthers? No, I think, no, they didn't actually. Gonna go Panthers 18 to the Knights 14. That's my prediction for that game. Alright, next game we got is Manly Sea Eagles versus South Sydney Rabbitohs. Manly at home could be a tough side if they can get their act together. They did it last week, and they put massive scoreline on the Warriors, which is really surprising. So, they could pose a challenge to South Sydney, but I do think South Sydney should be able to cope with it. Although the Titans did give them a challenge. But potentially GI could miss the game. He's missed training. Could be, I don't know what the exact reasons are, but we're not sure on his chances of playing. But I think I'm gonna go Rabbitohs 20. Oh, Adam Reynolds can kick some goals pretty good though. I'm gonna go 24 Rabbitohs, 14 Manly. So I do think that South Sydney could get the win here. I think they just got a bit too much class for Manly, to be honest with you. Next game would be the North Queensland Cowboys versus Canberra Raiders. North Queensland Cowboys got done at home last week. It was a massive scoreline. And the Raiders did get a win over the Knights, so it's a solid result for them. Do Canberra have what it takes to beat the Cowboys? I think the Cowboys, just without Taumalolo, are lacking a lot of punch to the middle of the field at the moment. But then again, Canberra, apart from, they got a couple of decent forwards there, but nothing like they were, say, 3-4 years ago when they went along with the Sharks up to the semi-finals and they were having a massively good year. So I do think that North Queensland can get the better play. So if they can shake off the cobwebs from last week, then I do think Cowboys should be able to come away with a win here. But their form has not been indicative of that. It's about whether the Raiders can get it together away from home for them. It's going to be a really tough game to call. I'm going to go North Queensland 14, Canberra 16. So I think Raiders can just sneak out a win here. They've looked better than Cowboys this season, but maybe North, you know what, I'm almost doubting that. North Queensland could really turn it around, so you never know. You know what? I'm actually not locking that 14-16. I think that North Queensland could win this game, actually. I'm going to go North Queensland 22 to the Raiders 18. 22-18, I'm going to go North Queensland win. Parramatta Eels versus Cronulla Sharks, the last Saturday game. Should be a pretty interesting match. Going to be tough. Parramatta, been in pretty good form. Didn't beat the Roosters, unfortunately for them. But they've lost Dylan Brown, who's, I think, everybody's been knowing he's been playing well. But in terms of what he's brought to the side and how important he's been, seriously underrated. In terms of being able to help the side, just have that control in the halves. And like when you needed to get a dropout, bring a short kicking game to the table. And when he wasn't doing those things right against the Roosters, we saw what it cost at times, with 7 tackle sets and then being able to go down the other end and cause us hella problems. I think that loss could be massive. You see how Jamie Salmon handles it. He wasn't bad last season when he came in, but it could be interesting. Cronulla Sharks, I think, don't see them as a massive premiership threat, but I do think that they got a pretty good chance of making the 8 and that they can cause problems. I think they'll be real unpredictable in the halves with the likes of Sean Johnson there next to Chad Townsend. Brayley out of number 9. Decent player. They got some good forwards. It's going to be an interesting game. Parramatta at ANZ Stadium, not yet at Bankwest, although it is said their home game still, but it's a pretty hard game to call, but I don't know. I feel like this could be, I actually kind of got a feeling that Cronulla might do it. I think I'm going to go Cronulla. I'm going to go Cronulla 22, Parramatta 16. So, yeah. I think Cronulla might actually win that game. It's hard for me to say as an Eels fan, but yeah, I just see Cronulla getting the win there. Next game is Melbourne Storm versus the Canterbury Bulldogs. Bulldogs got themselves into some decent form with the win against the Tigers, so that'll give them a bit of confidence. But at the end of the day, you're talking about the Melbourne Storm at Amy Park. It's a really tough situation to come back and win from. Aside from that performance, they haven't looked good at all. I've been saying it every week. They have looked poor. And Melbourne at Amy Park, I think they just got too much composure, too much control to be able to have one of those one-off good performances and beat him. Even if Canterbury came out all guns blazing, I think Melbourne will just be able to control the game well enough to iron that out and grind out the win. So, and I don't even know if Bulldogs will show up 2 weeks in a row like they did. So, I think this should be a Melbourne win. I'm going to go 24-10 Melbourne Storm. I think they should just be able to keep it in check, and, get a win, routine, next team. I think that's how Melbourne are going to go into it, and I think that they will come out of it. In the final Sunday match will be the Newcastle Knights versus St. George Dragons. Newcastle Knights, they've been one of the hype teams of the competition, but after these first 3 rounds, it hasn't been that good for them. They did get a win against Cronulla in the first round of the NRL, which is big, but then they followed that up with 2 losses. I believe to... Who did they lose to? They lost to Penrith, and then they lost to Raiders last round. At the Hunter Stadium, though, they can be pretty decent threat. But Saints have got some fight in them. But, yeah, just given the way the two teams have been... I think Saints have been poor up until last week. And even with Saints, the thing that their team is lacking massively is end product. I think that they look like they can cause problems when they get... And I've looked at them a bit more closely. Even when they have been poor, they do look like that, through the likes of Hunt, Norman and Widdop combining, that they can cause problems. But that, actually, thinking about it, that could be hampered slightly because Gareth Widdop has a dislocated shoulder. Don't know how long he's going to be out for. Looks like a longer term injury. But yeah, if Newcastle can stand up at home, they can, I think, rattle Saints here. But Saints aren't to be taken lightly either, I don't think. But without Widdop, I think you're going to get less problems being caused in the halves. But if they get the balance right, Saints can still pack a punch because you've got Norman, who can just slow it down, control the game, use the short kicking game. Ben Hunt, who can be the more run, cause problems. They can alternate the roles. And you got Dufty at the back, who can be a serious threat. So I think that on the overall, I think I'm going to give this to Saints. I'm tossing up over this one a lot. It's a hard game to call. And now that I think about it, Newcastle probably bite me in the arse and win. Because I was thinking originally going into this that they would win, but now I'm thinking Newcastle were going to win. To be honest, it's a hard game to call. I don't know. I'm gonna go. Oh my god, this absolutely sucks. I'm gonna go 24-20. St. George win. So, all right. So that'll be all the games for this round. They're really, really hard to come up with the scores. It's actually a quite hard thing, and I have to get them off random sometimes. So sometimes if you think, where am I getting these scores from? It's purely guesswork, and I have just as much chance of getting those right as anybody else does, to be honest with you. That might decide to predict the score for the hell of it, but yeah. So to run through them again, I'm going to go with the Roosters beating the Broncos 32-18. I've gone with the Warriors beating the Gold Coast 28-16. I'm going to go with the Panthers beating the Tigers 18-14. I'm going to go with Manly losing to Souths 14-24. I'm going with Cowboys beating the Raiders 22-18. I'm going with Parramatta losing to Cronulla 22-16. I'm going with the Melbourne Storm beating the Bulldogs 24-10. And I'm going with Newcastle losing to Saints 20-24. So, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like. Leave your predictions in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you next week with the next predictions video.